There are some disgusting triggers of sleep apnea that make it way worse than it has to be. And this is something that you need to look into if you're someone who's been trying CPAP, mouth tape, side sleeping, losing weight, and you're still struggling. You see, a lot of the times when we're talking about sleep apnea, a lot of people are at the tip of the iceberg, and there's many things underneath the surface that we need to address. So that's why in this episode, we will discuss the most disgusting things that are growing in different parts of your body. I know, it sounds great, right? From bacteria to mold to gut issues and everything in between. And of course, how to fix it so that you're sleeping way better. If you don't know me, I'm Dylan Peckus. I wish I knew this stuff back in medical school when I was dealing with my own sleep apnea. And of course, everything here is for educational purposes only. Always talk to your doctor before making any changes to your health. So there's three I'm going to cover in this video. And as I promised, yes, indeed, disgusting. I'm delivering on that promise. We're going to talk about biofilms here. So this right here is the nasal passageway here. And I had to flip the image to make it like before or after here. But this is normal and clean on this side over here. On the right, this is when you have biofilms accumulating, like whitish stuff inside of different passageways. I'll kind of break it down more. So you can see here, here's the primary schmutz, which is the technical term. This white snotty looking thing. And then even outside of that is going to be like white, grayish, because a biofilm is basically just a collection of cells on top of your cells that will cause issues. It's very common in the nose, which will cause issues. It can also be in the throat. It's not always looking like this. Very often it's a lot more subtle. But again, look at the similarities, like that white sort of grayish going on. It can be in the back of the throat, on the tongue. Can really be anywhere in your airway. And how this happens is you have some bacteria come in, they attach, and then they grow, and then that prevents things from like kind of getting into it. So they're very stubborn, if you will. And one of the most common types of biofilms you'll see in people are periodontal disease, or when you just you have like gunk along your gums, on your teeth. That is actually a biofilm. Bacteria making a little colony with a tough outer wall to keep you and I out of it here. And what they found in this study is that people with this type of biofilm, they're going to have up to a 4 times higher odds of having sleep apnea. And this is a very robust study, so that relationship is very strong. So how do you know if you have this? Again, talk to your doctor, but these are some signs to have in the back of your mind to trigger that discussion or lead to that discussion, rather. Number one, chronic sinus congestion that never fully clears. That's because you have that biofilm inside your nose and you may do something to reduce it, but then it keeps coming back and back and back. Number two, thick, sticky mucus, the best kind of mucus that clings. Bad breath all the time. Number four is recurrent infections in your throat there. Number five is postnasal drip. And then number six, which is really a modifier of all of these, it's these symptoms lasting a pretty long time. It's not like an acute thing, it's a ongoing thing, very chronic. So when dealing with this, these are things to consider. Again, talk to your doctor if oral hygiene is right for you. There's two main areas we want to talk about: oral cavity, nasal cavity. So with oral, if you remember our lovely picture that I won't revisit in case you're eating, just scraping it off is actually highly effective. And then you want to be able to get the sort of smaller things out of the roots here. So whether a xylitol-based mouthwash is a good option because xylitol is very, very good at breaking up biofilms. So xylitol can be in a mouthwash. If you're having biofilm issues in your nose, you can also use a xylitol-based spray. Xylitol is great for that. Another thing that's been shown to be effective for biofilms is oil pulling. Okay, you get a bunch of oil put in your mouth, swish, swish, swish for some inordinate amount of time, that may be 5 or 10 minutes, but does feel like an eternity, and then spit it out. Second big thing, nasal. So I did mention the xylitol. Another one that's showing promise is some that contains manuka honey. Do not snort honey. Don't do it. There's sprays that have this because manuka honey, and it can work because manuka honey contains enzymes that can help break down those biofilms. Number two are mold and mycotoxins. Kind of lump them together because mold will lead to mycotoxins. Very rarely do you have mycotoxins in isolation unless someone hates you and just drops off a bunch of mycotoxins at your house. So this can happen in many ways. So first are people who use CPAPs. Oftentimes, especially in the filter and the tubing, there will be stuff that grows, and fungus, mold spores, very high on the list. Outside of that, you're also at risk because there's Really, anything that leads to moisture can lead to mold, whether it's humidity, your AC, bad ventilation, roof. Like, really, if you're having any sort of level of moisture, there's going to be a risk of mold in your home. And how it will then make sleep apnea worse is that you have the molds and the toxins, the mycotoxins that they make. You will breathe them in, it will trigger an immune response that will take your airway from good to less good, more narrow, harder to breathe at night, more likely for your airway to snap shut. Thumbs down. Don't recommend the experience. And this is something that's also backed up by the research literature here. And what they found, they asked a lot of people, like, hey, you have sleep apnea? Cool. What kind of risk factors are you exposed to? And they found people that were exposed to damp environments, moldy basements, at work or wherever, they had nearly twice the risk. They had 50 to 100%, which is like, twice the risk of having sleep apnea. So it is a big contributor in that sense here. So how do you know? How do you know it's you? Because I don't want you to have to like rip up your entire house to figure out if there's blue cheese underneath your floorboards or something here. So try to think of it as home and body. Those are the two categories to think about mold and mycotoxin issues, and it'll make more sense as we go along here. So home wise, if it smells, musty, bedroom HVAC, got weird spots, that's gonna be a pretty big sign. Or there's water damage or a history of water damage. Body-wise, sinus congestion, especially as you go inside, or other symptoms that are worse at home. Or the flip side of this, maybe you sleep better when you go away. You go to someone's house or a trip, a hotel, whatever. It could point to environmental issues at home. So, what to perhaps consider? On the home side, it's all about making things clean. You want to think about air. So that's why filters, opening windows at the right time. You want to think about the things that are very close to your face for many, many hours at night. Pillows, sheets, etc. You want to be able to take care of those. Body wise, it would be about helping your body clear out some of these mold and microtoxins. So these are the top three things research back, or I guess top three categories. So sauna is going to be great for that to help sweat out some of the stuff. Number two is having something that helps bind it, whether it's chlorella, bentonite clay, activated charcoal. And these are things that, do talk to your doctor, practitioner, whoever you're there with, because this is when you start to cross into some stronger agents. And then, of course, sulfur-rich foods, broccoli, etc., because sulfur will help with the excretion of these different toxins. Now, the things I gave you, a good solid foundation. You may have a massive mold problem that just opening the window may not fix. I won't go too in depth because I want to keep things nice and tight here. Mold testing. Again, you want to think of it as home and body. If you are going to do this, you must do both. You must. That's because if you only test your home, but then you don't test your body, you may find some false positives in your environment. But the problem is, you never looked at, well, what's your body doing? Are there high levels of mold and mycotoxins being excreted in your urine? Because let's say you're not doing that, but you live in a moldy environment, maybe the testing or maybe your body's more resilient to it and it may not be that big of an issue. Flip side, if you only do one of these like at home mold urine test or blood test, whatever, but you don't test your home, well, if you just like slam a bunch of supplements in your body, but then you're stuck in this sick environment, you're just spinning your wheels and wasting money. So if you are going to do that, do both of them. Work with an expert on it. That's a whole separate like 40-minute video there. So big thing number three is the gut microbiome. So here's another study on the gut microbiome and obstructive sleep apnea. So I'm just not making stuff. I feel people just on YouTube say things without any substantive evidence. That's neither here nor there. But what we're talking about is they looked at, our gut microbiomes, like the gut bacteria, are they different in obstructive sleep apnea versus those who don't have sleep apnea? I'll keep this really brief. If the rectangles are blue, that means there is no difference. We do not see a lot of blue here. Very rarely. We got, what is this, orange, salmon? I'm not really sure. We got, orange. We got green. Blue is not the most common color here. So there's a very big difference amongst all the different gut microbiome. The reason for this, we have a mechanism, of course, is that you have these big swings in gases that will then modify your gut microbiome because your gut microbiome, bacteria. Bacteria need very careful titrations of oxygen, CO2, etc. If you've ever tried to ferment food, you know this very well. A little bit of oxygen goes a little bit of a way. A lot of it turns your fermented pickle project into a biohazard. Same thing inside of your gut. So that's what's going on here. But the even bigger issue, because yes, this will lead to gut disruption, but then, as you can see here, it leads to hypertension. How does that happen? It is with one of the most important molecules for sleep apnea, which is nitric oxide. And it is this gut microbiome disruption that leads to reduced nitric oxide in sleep apnea. That's a big problem because one, it will lead to higher blood pressure, which can lead to a stroke or a heart attack. So that's really bad. Two, more nitric oxide makes it easier to breathe. And three, more nitric oxide allows you to get more oxygen out of the air into your body by diffusion, the alveoli, all that really fun stuff. So nitric oxide is very important. But when you have a bad gut microbiome, that goes down. So we want to fix that. How do you know it's an issue? Well, gut issues, I mean, they're gut issues, gas, bloating, constipation, all the really fun things you like to talk about at dinner parties, food sensitivities, brain fog after meals, or if you have a previous history of using a lot of antibiotics is another one there. The way I like to think about approaching this is kind of like three main categories here. Number one, you want to protect the gut lining. One of the most important amino acids will be glutamine for that. You can get that from a supplement. You can also just get that from bone broth, or you can just eat cartilage if you're into crunchy meat snacks. Number two, we'll be feeding the good bugs here. So this is where you give those things like prebiotics there. Why not probiotics? I feel probiotics are perhaps too expensive for the impact that they do have. I think it's better to make sure you just set the right environment and allow things to grow as instead of trying to like import 10 million different things in there. But prebiotics, making sure you're having things that can feed the good bacteria, because one of the biggest deficiencies in the gut microbiome of people with sleep apnea is really low butyrate. So more fibers that you can have that produce butyrate, that will be better. And then last piece here is helping get rid of some of the toxins. Again, we talked about that, but one of the ones in small amounts that's been shown is psyllium husk. And again, I don't know what's going on with your gut. This is a mainly one-way communication branch, except for the comments. Um, Talk to your doctor, whoever's managing your intestines, your intestinal manager. And before you go, one big warning, this is not a let's do all, I'm not sure how many ideas they were in there, like maybe 12. Let's not do all 12 things, okay, and see what sticks. No, do not do that. That's a bad idea. Maybe find what applies to you the most and then consider those. All right. Because I know I talk about a lot of different things. It's not about doing all the things I mentioned in every single video, all 700 of them. It's about finding what works best for you. And of course, another warning here. Like I said, this is beneath the surface of this nice iceberg here, all these nice microbe looking things. But still, one of the biggest factors at the bottom of the glacier that's really driving everything here is your breathing pattern. So that's why I made the free instant apnea relief protocol. Teaches you not only custom breathing exercises that you can have there, also gives you custom myofunctional, also gives you custom ways to recharge your cells. It's really fantastic. So if you want that, it's free. Click this big red button here, or if you're on TV, like 40% of people, go to apneareset.com/show. So again, press this red button here. Don't press the thing above it. Press the red button. Or go to apneareset.com/show. I'm Dylan Peckus, and I'll see you on the next page.